welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie and these are my adventures in beekeeping. So if you guys have been following my channel recently, you've probably noticed that I haven't been the best at updating. And I wanted to explain to you guys that last summer and last winter, my bees did survive and they were thriving. And I did film every time I went out to the colonies. I just never really found the time to put it all together in one video. And I'm so sorry for that, guys, but I promise you this year I'll be much better at updating and I'll promise to keep you guys well informed. So I have a lot of great footage from last year, so I thought I'd share with you guys some of the most exciting and interesting clips. So this is us walking out to the bees after a major winter storm. I think we got an average of about a foot of snow, which is absolutely insane because I feel like New Jersey never gets that much snow. You can even see me struggling to walk through it here. And so we just went out to the bees to shovel them out in case they were snowed in. And what's really amazing is the bees are able to keep their colonies so warm, even in the middle of winter, that all this snow just completely melted around them. And it's just absolutely amazing to think that they're able to use that much heat. Another exciting thing that happened was that our bees swarmed, and so we called in a swarm catcher to help us catch this swarm. We unfortunately do not have the equipment to start up another colony, so we let this swarm catcher keep these bees. So I decided to share those clips with you guys because I thought they were really fun and interesting, and I hope you found them interesting as well. I unfortunately do have some bad news to share with you guys, and that is that one of the colonies unfortunately did not make it through the winter. This colony, we believe, experienced colony collapse disorder, which is an event in where a majority of worker bees disappear and leave their queen behind, leading to the failure or collapse of that colony. And so we believe this happened because when we went out to the colonies after the winter was over and in the early spring, we noticed that inside this hive, there was hardly any bees. And keep in mind, this colony was really healthy going into the winter, so it probably had around 60,000 bees. So to find hardly any inside that bee box, this was a telltale sign to me that it experienced colony collapse disorder. I do have to admit, it was kind of interesting to experience colony collapse disorder firsthand because it is something that I've been researching scientifically for the past 3 years. However, it was obviously very heartbreaking to go through and I was really upset to have lost that colony. But I did want to see if there was a way that I could somehow start up a new colony. I did not want to start a new colony with a nuke like how I did in my first videos, as I wasn't sure if I would be able to secure the monetary needs for it. So I wanted to see if there was something I could possibly do with that colony that did survive through the winter. And after some researching, that's when I came across a walkaway split. And so as you can probably tell from the title of this video, I'll be walking through the steps of how I successfully completed a walkaway split. So please keep watching to learn more. So this is the colony that did survive, and so I'm just giving them a little smoke, letting them know that I'm here. And so we actually ended up adding on a honey super because they were really crowded and we thought they would need that extra space. And so here I'm just pulling out a frame to see how they're doing and see if I need to add on another honey super. And so as you can see, this frame, it's all completely drawn out comb. However, it isn't capped, it's only filled with honey right now. So they still have a little bit of work to do, so I can wait a couple of weeks before I put on another honey super. And so now I'm going down into the lower boxes because this is where we're gonna get our frames to help start that new colony. So when I'm going into these lower boxes, what I'm checking for is brood and queen cells. I want queen cells because the nurse bees that will be moved into that new colony, they'll create a new queen and that will become the new queen of that colony, but we need queen cells in order for that to happen. And then we want brood because we want those new bees to be loyal to that new queen. And so that is the only way to really get those bees to become loyal to her. This frame, it's completely filled with honey. However, that is not what we needed, so I'm just putting that frame back inside for these bees to enjoy. And I actually moved down into the lower box, and when I'm down here, I'm even being more careful to make sure I'm not accidentally putting the frame with the queen inside the new box because then all the bees would move over with her. So I want to make sure that the queen's not on the frame that I choose. And here I'm checking to make sure the queen's not on there, as well as for any queen cells. And this frame actually did have some queen cells at the bottom. You can see, we'll zoom in a second here. That right there that we're zoomed in on, that is a queen cell. So we're gonna move this frame into that new box. And when I move a frame into the new box, I'm taking a frame out and putting it into the old one just so that there's a nice little transfer. And this frame was also really great because it was filled with a lot of nurse bees as well as brood, and that is exactly what we want. And so I'm just gonna keep continuing this process until I get about 3 to 4 frames inside that old colony. So now right here, I'm just getting a frame that's filled with a lot of bees and shaking it into this new colony just to get even more bees in there. And I'll come back in a couple of weeks.
4 to 6 weeks later.
And so I was opening up this hive and I was so excited because I saw a lot of bees crawling around in there. And so that was the first sign to me that this split was successful. And then going down into the lower box, I was even more excited because there was even more bees and I could see some larvae and that burnt comb there. And so I was just pulling out a frame to double check and make sure that there were signs that the queen was doing her job, like brood and larvae and eggs. And when I pulled out this frame, I was absolutely amazed because it was a beautiful frame. You can see all that uniform brood. It's all nice and clean. You can tell that she's a new, strong, healthy queen. And on this side, you can even see some of that larvae before it becomes in the cap stage. And it's beautiful pearly white, so it's all healthy. And I was so happy to see that because that means that this hive successfully completed a split, and I was just so excited and ecstatic. I did see that this colony is really full, especially because all that honey from the old colony was still in there. So I added on a honey super just to give them a little bit more space, because the last thing I want right now is for this new colony to swarm. And so I want to give them a little bit more space so they don't feel too clustered within their new home. And so now I'm just going back to the old colony that we completed the split from, and I wanted to check on that honey super to see how much they've completed, because it is a couple of weeks later. So I wanted to see if it was time to add on another honey super or if we needed to wait a little bit longer. And so I pulled out this frame and it was completely filled with honey, and it does have a little bit of capping, but the bees still have quite a bit to go. So I'm gonna wait a couple of weeks before I put on a new super. And even when I was pulling out this frame, it's completely empty, no drawn out comb, so the bees still have a little bit of work to do. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed.